I don't know about you guys, but as a child, I was obsessed with Goosebumps. I would go to the library right next to my house. Every week I was getting new Goosebumps books. I was buying them, renting them from the library. I was doing whatever I could to get my hands on these things. And when I think about it now, I don't even remember like half the books I read. So I decided, hey, it's October. Let's go back. Let's pick out 3 Goosebumps books to go over and talk about on the channel. Because I haven't read these books in probably like 10 years. Going back through these was fun, but it was also a little bit like, oh man, this terrified me and I did not need to be so scared of this, you know. Enough talk though, let's get into the first book written by R.L. Stine himself, The Haunted Mask. Before I talk about this real quick, let me just say this. I got this Goosebumps like tin can from Barnes & Noble, and it included a bunch of these classic covers of Goosebumps, because nowadays they print them with like new covers that aren't the ones that I grew up with. So I figured, why not spend a little bit extra and get like the classic covers that I grew up getting. I just wanted to make that little side comment because I was really excited to find out that I could still get like basically new copies of the old covers. But anyway, Haunted Mask, possibly the most famous Goosebumps book of all time. And I think it's my favorite. Believe it or not, I hadn't actually read this one before. I don't know how I missed out on it as a kid, because I had like stacks of Goosebumps books and I had read so many of them that when I was looking at them, I was like, how have I not read The Haunted Mask? So I decided to try something that I hadn't read before for this one, and I really, really like The Haunted Mask. I think it might be my favorite Goosebumps book of all time. It's honestly kind of scary. The plot of this book revolves around a girl named Carly Beth, who is in school, and she is just kind of a big scaredy cat, and her classmates, these 2 boys, are always playing pranks on her, and they're scaring her and embarrassing her in front of the whole school. But it kind of goes a little too far. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you've read this book, it's like, this isn't just like them scaring her, this is like actual bullying, and it's like affecting her life like awfully, and she's like so upset about it and everything. Like reading this, I was like, I feel so bad for Carly Beth. She's just getting scared constantly, and she's like, I was embarrassed in front of the whole school. They made her like eat a worm accidentally and everything. It was really like, oh my gosh, the cruelty of it was insane. But anyway, Carly Beth decides she's not going to be the victim of these scares anymore. She's going to do the scaring. So she starts to kind of come up with this plot in her head to scare the bullies. She goes to get the scariest Halloween costume that she can find. She goes to this Halloween store. She thinks it's closed. The guy's actually inside. She's like, please let me in. I need to get a costume. I gotta get the scary costume. She looks all over the walls. Nothing is scary enough. She finds a back room with a bunch of masks on the walls that are like terrifying. And when I was reading this, I was like, this is kind of scary. It's like things with like nails in their eye and like bugs on them and stuff, and like kind of looks like dead people's faces that have been skinned off or something crazy. It's just kind of like, man, this was for kids or teenagers, and it's like kind of brutal, which is cool. That's why I liked this series as a kid, because it would go places other series wouldn't. So she picks out this scary mask, and her mom had made a head sculpt for her in her art class earlier. So Halloween night, she puts on the mask. She puts the head sculpt of her own head that her mom had made on a stick, and her plan is kind of just to scare these 2 boys with the scary mask and the head on a stick and being like, I killed Carly Beth. She can't get the mask off though, that's the problem. And then basically a whole thing ensues where she finally gets the mask off, but it's like, oh, if you ever put the mask back on, then it's going to be permanently stuck to you. The next person the mask latches onto is the last one that it will latch onto. So Carly Beth gets home, she puts the mask down, and the last part of the book is her brother saying this. Hey Carly Beth, he called in a deep raspy voice, look at me. How do I look in your mask? R.L. Stine at his absolute peak. I can't think of anything better than this. I've read a lot of them, and somehow the one I read as an adult is the one that I think is the best. So this book, I would legit give this a 10 out of 10. I'm not even kidding. I loved this so much. I couldn't put it down. I read it like all in one sitting just because I was like so happy to be reading Goosebumps again. And it's a really good story, honestly. So I was excited just to be back in Goosebumps. And I'm going to give this one a 10 out of 10. It's actually a perfect book. I'm not even kidding. R.L. Stine's pacing with this book in particular, but in Goosebumps in general kind of, is really crazy. He has this ability to write a book that's only like 120 pages long, but it's really snappy, it's short and sweet, but it's got everything in it that you need. It doesn't feel like you're being rushed through the story, but it doesn't feel like you're left wanting more of it, you know? It's just perfectly short and sweet, especially this one. I can't speak for every Goosebumps book, but for this one and the ones I read, it was like, man, I forgot that R.L. Stine is actually a good writer. There's even a line in here where she's like looking at herself in the mask and she has like glowing orange eyes and she says like, oh my goodness, those aren't my eyes. And she like tries to feel them and she's like, these aren't my eyes. And she's freaking out. And as someone that's particularly affected by anything with the eyeballs, that stuff just creeps me out. It was a very scary scene, and it's very well written. So, again, 10 out of 10. Great book. Let's get into the next one. Second book I had read this as a kid, but I pretty much forgot entirely the whole plot, I think. Or maybe I read it as a kid, but I didn't finish it. When I was little, I would get a lot of books from the local library, so I think a lot of the time I would like start a book and I would get halfway through and then I would forget about it. My mom would be like, okay, we have to return this. And then I would just return it and never finish it. But this one is Night of the Living Dummy. Probably the second most famous Goosebumps book. Maybe the most famous. I guess it kind of depends on who you ask. But if you're thinking Goosebumps, I feel like you're generally thinking one of these two books. This book revolves around two twin sisters, Chris Powell and Lindy Powell. And they both get ventriloquist dummies. As you can tell, Night of the Living Dummy. Lindy in particular finds hers in a garbage can in a dumpster, and then her sister Chris, her dad buys her one at a pawn shop because she's jealous of her sister getting them. Her sister gets really good with it, Lindy gets alright with it. One of the dummies is Mr. Slappy, one of the dummies is Mr. Wood, and Mr. Wood ends up being an evil dummy that comes to life and kind of just terrorizes the family. And at first, Chris kind of realizes, oh my gosh, this dummy's evil and stuff. And Lindy doesn't believe her. But then near the end, Lindy finds out the dummy's evil too. And their parents still don't believe them. So they kind of just have to gang up together and kill this dummy. Which ultimately they end up doing by kind of tricking it. Like they get it outside and their plan is to throw it under a steamroller. And they toss it at the steamroller. But then it like jumps out of the way, I guess, but it doesn't see that there's a second steamroller and then it gets run over. It's kind of a sillier book than The Haunted Mask. There weren't any real parts in this where I was like, that's kind of scary. But I've never been like the type of person that's scared of like dolls or anything, so maybe that's it. Maybe if that was kind of your specific fear, you would be like, this is a scary book. I just don't have that, so... And it's meant for children, too. I don't know why I'm acting like, I can't believe this Goosebumps book didn't scare me. Like, yeah, it's kind of not really meant for me. I don't have as much to say about this book as I do The Haunted Mask. Reading it, it's really fun. Every Goosebumps book is fun. If you're looking for something fun, just pick up a Goosebumps book. It takes like an hour to read. That's all you gotta invest in it. And the whole time I'm reading it, I'm smiling. I'm thinking, man, this is just fun. It's classic. When I'm reading these, I'm thinking now as an adult, I'm like, oh, there were kind of like messages and themes in these books beside just a scary story. Like this one in particular, it's kind of like the twins aren't able to share anything and they just want something of their own, but like Lindy is jealous of Chris always copying her. And it kind of leads into almost like a cautionary tale of jealousy a little bit, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm just reading too much into Goosebumps, That seems like kind of what it was saying to me. You get a couple laughs in this too. It's definitely one of the funniest Goosebumps books ever, I think. You get this part where Chris, one of the sisters, is doing her act with Mr. Wood, her ventriloquist dummy, for these elderly neighbors, and it starts telling them all sorts of insults like, oh, you know, I'm faker than your dentures, and calling them like fat and ugly and old and stuff. And it's really crazy, and they're just like, this isn't funny. And then there's this other funny part where Chris is performing at the school talent show as like an opener, I guess, and Mr. Wood the dummy starts talking on its own, insulting people, and there's this kind of like Exorcist homage almost, where the dummy's mouth opens up and there's like this pea soup colored gunk that just goes out of its mouth and soaks the entire auditorium, and you're getting descriptions of like everyone's just like and gagging and like kind of just being disgusted at what has happened. Ultimately, this one was more fun to read than The Haunted Mask, I think, but it wasn't as good of a book. It was a little bit all over the place. That's kind of as much as I can say for it. You know, I can't really dog on Goosebumps too much and get mad at it. I think this one I would probably give a 7 out of 10. Still a great book. I still didn't regret reading it, but it was a little sillier, a little less my style. But that's okay. We had fun reading Night of the Living Dummy. And let me just say again, these classic covers are insane. I forget the name of the guy that did them, but there is so many of these. They're all great. I can't think of a single one that's bad. And there's even on the internet, I saw a classic Goosebumps cover art book that I guess now I'm going to have to buy because I'm getting so nostalgic for these covers again. It's so nostalgic for me, these covers, and they're just like genuinely great pieces of art too. Let's get into the last one and my least favorite, sadly. This is Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns, and this one did not come with the old school style cover in my box set, so I just had to pick it up like this off Amazon, but still a pretty cool cover. I have a little bit of history with this book. I'll explain. When I was younger, I rented this from the library, right? I was reading at night before I went to bed, and there is a scene in here that scared me so bad. I was a little bit too old, I think, to be getting scared this bad. I might have been like, I was probably around 10 or 11. But there's a scene where this old couple answers the doors for the children in the book that are trick-or-treating, and they go into their house because she's like, the old lady is like, oh, you need to come in and let my husband, who's really old and can't move, see your costumes. So they go into their house. Did your parents teach you nothing? They go in and there's like, the house is like a furnace, they say, like it's really hot in there. And then all these like children are in there crying. And they're like, when do we get to leave? And the old guy is there and he's like, let me look at your costumes. Let me look at your costumes. And then they're I think they're kind of like, we're going to keep you here forever. And it ends up just being like a daydream that this girl that's in the story had. But as a kid, it like terrified me. Just the picture in my head of like knocking on a door to trick or treat and getting candy, but then going in and being stuck with all these other crying children by this like old couple was so scary for some reason. And when I read it in this, I was like, man, I'm going to have like war PTSD flashbacks because of how scared I was. And then I read it and I was like, I can't believe I was this scared of that. But, you know, as a kid, there's just certain things that just like in your head, you're like, oh my gosh, and it terrifies you for no good reason. So this book revolves around a girl named Drew and her two friends, and they want to get back at these kids that have been kind of ruining their Halloweens for a while by just playing like cruel jokes on them that scares them. So they set up this elaborate plan to scare them. It kind of ultimately just goes according to plan. It's nothing like crazy. I don't know how to really describe this book because it's a lot less substance than the other ones I talked about. But they end up scaring the kind of bullies, right? And at the end of the book, there's like the weirdest plot twist that I think I've ever read, because there's this whole thing of like these jack-o'-lantern people are capturing us and they're going to make us trick or treat forever. And then it's revealed that was their plan the whole time, to scare the bullies, which you kind of already could have guessed. And then the bullies run off, right? And it's her and her two friends. And then she's like, yeah, it's great having friends from another planet. And you're like, oh, haha. Like one of them was dressed up as an alien princess or like a space princess or something. So it's like, oh, funny. And then they're like, yeah. And then you find out it's like her two friends are actually aliens, which just comes out of nowhere. It's really weird if you read this book. It's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's kind of spooky. Yeah, they're jack-o'-lanterns. They're going to trick or treat forever. They're aliens now? Comes out of absolute left field and just weirds you out. I'll read the last part of this too, because I got a kind of good chuckle about this. She talks about how like, oh, the best part about having friends that are aliens is y'all don't eat candy, so I get all the candy. They're like, haha, yeah, and they give her their candy. And then she's like, hey, you know what? I've never seen y'all eat before. What do y'all eat? And then they reach out and pinch her arm, and they're like, you're still really bony, Drew. You'll find out what Shane and I eat when you fill out a bit. Yeah, Shane chimed in. People from our planet only like to eat very large adults, so you don't have to worry for now. My mouth dropped open. Hey, you're kidding, right? I demanded. Shane? Shauna? You're not serious, right? That's a joke. Right? Right? I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with anything in this book. I don't know why I was so scared of it as a kid. It's so weird. This one was like, I feel like R.L. Stine wrote it all and then was like, oh, I don't know how to end this. Make them aliens. I'm not even complaining. It's a really funny book. And it was still enjoyable to read because it's Goosebumps. You just get to the ending and you're like, what? What's happening? Why are they aliens now? I don't want to harp on that too long though. I just thought it was really funny and weird. I think I'm going to give this book probably like a 5. It was fun, but I wouldn't read it again. And it was kind of nostalgic to look back and see what scared me so much as a kid. But ultimately that one was just weird and like, I didn't like it that much. So yeah, that's Goosebumps. Those are the 3 books I read. Looking back, I could have probably read more, but I wanted to keep this kind of a short and sweet video. Just a little retrospective on some of my favorite Goosebumps books, and one that I hadn't read before, but that I really enjoyed. My final kind of closing thoughts are just how impactful Goosebumps was as a series. There are probably thousands of people now that, like me, just love horror movies, are big fans of just kind of the horror genre in general in all aspects, that their first introduction to it would have been Goosebumps. And that's kind of the thing that created that thing in their head of, man, I really love this style. I really like to be scared. I really like spooky stuff. And I'm sure if you talked to like some modern day horror writers, I'm sure some of them would probably say that they were inspired by Goosebumps. I can't tell you how many friends I had growing up that we would talk about Goosebumps books that we had read. We would talk about like, what's the scariest? Would this Goosebumps monster beat this Goosebumps monster? And just like the grip that it had on our hearts as little children was really something special. And these books are just so special in general. You read them and you get a sense of kind of joy and whimsy, even though they're scary. You get this sense of like, man, what simpler times when the scariest thing was a talking dummy coming to life. I feel like you cannot read one of these books and be grumpy while reading it. You just like have a smile on your face the whole time. They're cheesy, but in a good way. They're short in the best way. And they're scary, but they're not horrifying, no matter how much I thought that they were as a child. So yeah, that's been my retrospective, my short little thoughts on the couple Goosebumps books I've read. If you guys have a favorite Goosebumps book, let me know in the comments below what it is. I've probably read it before, and if not, maybe I'll consider reading it for another video. If you guys want another video too, actually, where I read a whole bunch of these, maybe I read all 16 classic original Goosebumps books, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. I'd be more than happy to put like 15 hours into just reading all the classics, you know. That's one more thing too, is when are we going to acknowledge that these are classic books? I'm sick and tired. Like, we have Frankenstein, Dracula, add Goosebumps to the list. That's kind of it, guys. I just wanted to talk about Goosebumps, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. This Halloween season, I'm going to be uploading a video every Friday leading up to Halloween, and then I'm going to talk about some more, like, actual horror books that I read this Halloween time. I'm not just doing kids' books. That should be really fun. I think the next video coming out will be really interesting too. So stay tuned, and if you liked what you see, subscribe so that you can get notifications and everything if I upload anything else. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. See ya.